You guys got any more thoughts before we get done with Maryland?
I want to poke the bear a little bit here and see if I can't get you guys going, because I know everybody likes to hate the team at the top and hate the guy at the top. So I know a big narrative, a big storyline last year in the Big Ten was how Zack Edy is officiated. So I would just love to hear your guys' thoughts, especially an Illinois fan, when you talk about Kofi being a similar style player that just gets beat on and beat on and beat on. I just wanted to get you guys' thoughts on that.
You can take this first, Nick.
I think I think the refs were a lot more unfair to Kofi than Edey, if I got to be honest with you, Russ. I just, Edey's also bigger than Kofi, like way bigger than Kofi, and Kofi is the biggest player I think in Illinois history. Like, he was a monster, and Edey made him look small. But I don't know. It's tough. It's tough because Edey bumps someone and they go flying. So it's hard player to officiate. I think more so just the officiating's bad. I mean, we could talk about football officiating as well, just college officiating in general. The Java Spy, who was he was doing the chat here, notorious for hating the zebras. They just Illini always seem to be on the wrong side of things. But yeah, I mean, I like to hate on Edey a little bit. I'm not gonna lie to you, Russ.
What about you, JR?
So I don't hate like Edey off the court. Edey's one of those guys that I feel like off the court and everything, like he seems like he's really, really good, and like his story and everything like that. So it's kind of hard for me to hate him on the court because I let my heart get into it too much, where I'm like, oh, well, personally, I don't think I hate this guy. But Edey's the guy that I don't like. I'll be honest and say he's really good. But at the same time, I'm also going to be honest and say that I think he gets away with stuff that other guys don't get away with. I mean, I've seen Zack Edy, who is way smaller than Zack Edy, do things to guys, and he gets called for it. And then I see Zack Edy do it to Zack Edy, kind of going back to that injury last year, and he doesn't get called for it. And so I am a bit understanding, because I get that it's like it's really hard to officiate somebody who's 7'4" and everybody else is like under 7 foot. I mean, imagine me playing in like a 5th grade basketball game. How how would they officiate that? So I don't know if I necessarily blame him for it. It does frustrate me off like not watching a game. I don't get as frustrated about it, but definitely like last year when Zack Edy got hurt when he was playing against Zack Edy, that did really, really frustrate me. But again, I can't really say it's like Zack Edy's fault. He's just playing his game, and the refs are going to be what the refs are. So.
Russ, there was an Illini Purdue game. It was when Kofi. It was last year of Kofi, so I think Edey was a sophomore. It was a holiday, so it was like an 11 a.m. or noon game. I don't know if you remember that game. It was in Champaign, and it went into overtime. Unbelievable game. But I'm tainted because in that game, Edey elbowed. I think it was one where he had the ball, brought it above his head, elbowed Kofi right in the head, right in the face, and there was no foul call. And Kofi literally had to take a seat because he was what seemed like he was concussed. So I'm a little scarred from that, but I'm sure you feel completely on the other side of the scale, because that's how we all felt with Kofi, where he's just getting absolutely mauled every play.
So one thing that's been interesting with him this year is last year he kind of, obviously the team as a whole burst on the scene, right? Purdue was not ranked coming into the season. Edey was coming into his junior year, but he didn't average more than like 18 or 19 minutes a game because we'd always had the two bigs that we kind of rotated. So last year was the first year that he actually got to play 30, 35 minutes a game. And this year you're already hearing from guys, especially like Jay Billis and those types, that my challenge to you as a basketball fan would be just watch Zack Edy when you play, watch Purdue play, and just watch him go up and down the court a few times. Because one thing I've heard a lot this year already is you could call a foul against Zack Edy on like every play.
Yeah.
But at the same time on offense, or when he's playing defense, it's like everything he does is going to throw somebody off because he's just a giant dude. But the guy, especially the second half of the season last year, once he started getting the National Player of the Year narrative going, you'd see him in post-game pressers, and he's got cuts, and he's bleeding, and he's bruised up. Because if you watch dudes playing on the post, he's just getting beat. And one strategy that has challenged Purdue is kind of the unspoken strategy in college basketball, which is they can't call every foul, right? Like no coach is going to come out and say, that's our game plan is we're going to just beat the crap out of Edey because they're not going to play every single foul. Yeah. But they'll say, hey, we're going to take the physical fight today. We're just going to play physical. But then they'll complain about, Edey fouled out 2 or 3 guys. But like, I think that's the strategy that people play against Purdue is just beat the crap out of them, knowing that they're not going to call everything. And then Edey is so big that, he grabs the ball and he turns and he's hitting somebody with his elbow. So it's hard. Like I'm watching the Tennessee game tonight and we're struggling because Edey can't, I didn't see the minutes, but Edey can't have played more than 15 minutes tonight because he literally, every time he goes up for a rebound, they call a foul and he's sitting back down. The last, I think his 4th foul he picked up with like 10 minutes left in the game tonight. They showed a replay and he's literally standing in the spot, reaches straight up to grab the ball, and they called a foul on him, and it's his 4th foul. So it's like, what is he supposed to do? So,
real quick, Russ. So spot on with how it was with Kofi. I think even the ref told Brad during one game that we would have to call a foul on every play, and Brad's like, "Yeah, if it's a foul, call a foul on every play." Like that's how you have to.
Painter said the same thing.
It's ridiculous that like they say we can't call. I mean, if it's a foul, it's a foul, right? Like you can't just say we're not going to call it because we can't call it every time. So I can empathize with you for sure. It's tough, but Edey is super impressive. The way the guy can shoot free throws, that was the one thing he could do that Kofi could not. I mean, that's a game changer. It's a game changer. Yep. Kofi was always like 50 to 55%, and it was, I mean, that lost us a lot of games.
Edey was around 70% last year, so that was a big part of him being the player of the year.
Yeah.
No, I do sympathize with Edey, a bit because I do get it. Like I was saying, if I played against 5th graders for an entire game, probably look like I was fouling them the entire game too. But Nick's exactly right. It's the unfortunate fact of what officiating has basically become in college athletics. I mean, these guys aren't full time. And every now and then, like I think there was a story last year, like one ref he refereed like 6 games in 7 days or something like that because they want the best refs every single time because the terrible refs suck. And like they interviewed him about it and he was like, "Oh yeah, that's not uncommon at all." He was like, I could referee 28 games in a month.
Well, and part of the problem in college basketball too is these officials will be all over the country. So they'll call 6 games in 7 days, but they'll call a game at UCLA and then go call a game at Baylor and then go call a game at UConn.
So they're hopping on a flight right after the game. Yeah. So thanks for listening to the Big Ten Huddle. Please do like and subscribe. We appreciate that. If this was your first time listening, we are the Big Ten Huddle. We cover all things Big Ten football and basketball. We have a long episode every Sunday, Tuesday, and Wednesday night, all at 9 o'clock. So come in, check us out, get in the chat, let us know what you're thinking. We would love to have you join us and learn more about the Big Ten.